Good day, beautiful people. Today we will take a look at your clinical parasitology. Anyway, when you say clinical parasitology, it deals with the parasites in relation to humans or in relation to diseases. Anyhow, okay, please note that your clinical parasitology, this one is in the BSMLS curriculum, this one is a course or a subject with a laboratory component. It has a laboratory component. Okay, anyway, your clinical parasitology, this is the study of parasites that infect humans. Okay, that infect humans. So there is a disease correlation, or yes, there is a disease relation in case of clinical parasitology. And please note that this one deals with your clinical parasitology, deals with the morphology of the parasite, especially the diagnostic. Okay, the diagnostic forms. Okay, and usually it is the ova or the egg or the cyst. Anyhow, it deals with the morphology, with the life cycle, the pathogenesis, the diagnosis, as well as the prevention and control of these parasites that cause diseases to humans. And under this, in clinical parasitology, you have the protozoa, you have your helminths, and then you have your arthropods. But then in what you call this, in the course, you will focus on the helminths, like your ascaris, your platyhelminths, like your flatworms, your dilatum, your taenia, and then you will focus also on protozoa. You will focus also on protozoa as well as malaria, blood parasites. Okay, and so but then you will not go over so much about the arthropods. And please note that it is actually a concern. Your parasites, they are actually a concern because please note there is high prevalence of parasitic infections in tropical and subtropical regions in the Philippines, or based on the statistics. Okay, you have millions actually of parasitic diseases are reported year after year. And please note that based also on statistics, your parasites, they are actually one of the major cause of morbidity. Okay, major cause of morbidity. And yes, anyway, your symbiotic relationship. Let's take a look at this one. Please note that in symbiotic relationship, you have mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. We'll only take a look at these three. When you say mutualism, it is actually a relationship where both organisms gain advantage. Both organisms, they gain advantage. Okay, so example is say what do you call this? Your clownfish and a sea anemone, wherein the clownfish gain protection and the anemone gains nutrients from the waste of the clownfish. Anyway, moving on to your commensalism, this is one is benefited while the other is not affected. Okay, one is benefited while the other is not affected. One organism again benefits while the other is neither helped or neither benefited nor harmed. Okay, neither benefited nor harmed accordingly. Okay, so in commensalism, the host experiences no measurable cost or benefit. And then you have parasitism. In parasitism, one organism is benefited while the other is harmed. One organism, which you call as the parasite, benefits at the expense of the host. Okay, benefit at the expense of the host. One example is your arthropod, your head lice, sorry. Your head lice, okay, yeah, the head lice benefits from you. And of course, okay, it feeds from your blood. Okay, the lice feeds from your blood. And of course, you are harmed. somewhat. Okay, that is for your mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. Anyway, okay, your parasite, this is a living organism or an organism that lives on or within a host, deriving nourishment. You have what you call as endoparasite and ectoparasite here. And you have your host, that is the organism that harbors the parasite. You have actually a lot of types of host. Okay, there can be a definitive host or an intermediate host, okay, in the context of parasitology. And the vector, your vector, that is an organism that transmits the parasite. An example of a vector is a mosquito. Mosquito that transmits malaria, 'di ba? The female Anopheles mosquito, it transmits malaria. And then you have your reservoir host. It maintains, or your reservoir host maintains the parasite in its nature. I mean, maintains the parasite in nature accordingly. Okay, so you have groups of human parasites. You have three. You have the protozoa, you have your helminths, you have your arthropods. Okay, but then as what I've said earlier, in the course, in the clinical parasitology course, you will not focus on arthropods. Your focus is on protozoa and on helminths. Okay, protozoa, please note they are unicellular organisms. Example, you have your Entamoeba histolytica, Entamoeba coli, Giardia lamblia, those items. They are protozoa. Also, your Plasmodium actually is a protozoa. Okay. And then you have your helminths. You have your helminths. They are multicellular worms, actually. They are cellular worms. Okay, so your helminths, there are nematodes. You have cestodes and trematodes accordingly. Examples, of course, you have your Ascaris lumbricoides, your Ancylostoma duodenale, your Taenia saginata, Taenia solium, and the rest of your worms or the rest of your helminths. And yes, your modes of transmission, please note your modes of transmission for parasites. You have fecal oral. Okay, fecal oral meaning from a contaminated water. I mean, contaminated food or water from the feces going to the mouth. Parang ganon, fecal oral. From a contaminated water or contaminated food, okay, that you have taken in. And then penetration, skin penetration, this is seen in soil transmitted helminths for Ancylostoma duodenale. Okay, skin penetration. Vector-borne, okay, vector-borne, you have malaria, they're actually vector-borne. You have actually a lot. Okay, you have babesiosis, okay, those items. Okay, trypanosomiasis, those items, they are actually vector-borne. You have your mosquitoes, you have flies, you have your ticks. Yes. Okay, and then you have, aside from those, ingestion of undercooked meat or fish, for dilatum, I mean, for Taenia saginata, Taenia solium. Okay, that is why it is important to cook very well your food. Aside from that, congenital transfusion, or I mean congenital transmission, or transfusion related. Okay, transfusion related malaria. And yes, okay, trypanosomes. Anyway, okay, you have your pathogenesis of your parasitic infections. Please note that, okay, the parasites, they cause damage through, okay, tissue invasion or obstruction, mechanical damage, tissue invasion or obstruction. What else? They compete with the nutrients. Okay, example, your Diphyllobotrium latum, your D latum present in the intestines, they compete with vitamin B12. Okay, they compete with vitamin B12. Instead, that the vitamin B12 is absorbed by the body and is utilized very well No, in case of the latum, because the D-latum will take in vitamin B12, causing vitamin B12 deficiency, leading to anemia, nutrient competition. And then toxin production, your parasites, they produce toxins that will cause reactions and immune-mediated injury or hypersensitivity. Okay, and so yes, these parasites, okay, or parts of the parasites or metabolic waste of the parasites or toxins produced by the parasite may cause hypersensitivity, may react with the immune system, or yes, causing hypersensitivity or inflammation. And then, yes, you have your clinical manifestations of your parasitic infection. Okay, if the parasite resides in the gastrointestinal tract, usually there will always be an abdominal pain. There will always be an abdominal pain and diarrhea if the parasite resides in the abdominal tract. Okay, so for your gastrointestinal symptoms, you have diarrhea and abdominal pain. Hematologic, okay, hematologic manifestation, there can be anemia. And please note that eosinophils, they are increased in case of parasitism, in case of increase of parasites or parasite invasion or parasite migration, there is increased eosinophils. Okay, anemia, one good example is about your D-latum anemia, your Diphyllobothrium latum anemia, wherein the dilatom will compete with B12. And if you try to remember again, sabi natin last time when we talk about hematology, sabi natin is in erythropoiesis, it requires vitamin B12, iron, and folate as such. Okay, so if vitamin B12 is deficient, then it will cause anemia. Neurologic seizures, okay, for advanced cases, of course, okay. And so, but then, yes, there are, I mean, in cases of acanthamoeba, naegleria, those items. And then dermatologic, pruritus, mangangate, rashes, usually at the sites of penetration for this one. But then pruritus can be seen in cases, pruritus ani, okay, can be seen in cases of Okay, pruritus ani can be seen in cases of Enterobius vermicularis infection. Okay, especially during the night time. And systemic, you have fever and weight loss. Weight loss, of course, probably because the parasites, they are competing, or the worms, they are competing with the nutrients. And then laboratory diagnosis, you have microscopic examination, fecalysis, okay, direct microscopic exam, contact or concentration techniques, staining methods, okay, antigen detection. Okay, antigen detection will, what you call this, antigen detection, it utilizes immunoassay methods like ELISA, ganyan, and molecular assays, as well as serology for tissue parasites. Okay, and so yes, those are techniques for laboratory diagnosis. Direct microscopic exam. Okay, you can make use of DFS or iodine mount, NSS mount, or you can make use of KTS, Kato thick smear, and Kato cuts. Okay, concentration techniques. And then yes, you can do your FECT and then other concentration techniques. Staining methods, you can make use of trichrome stain, acid fast stain, and the rest of your methods accordingly. And then, yes, for your stool examination, please note, your stool examination, this is the most commonly utilized method in the clinical parasitology to detect ova and parasite in ONP exam. Please note that the stool should be fresh and not contaminated. It should be fresh and free of contamination. And yes, usually in stool examination, physical examination or macroscopic examination is done prior to preparing a slide or smear. Okay, you record the consistency, the color, and the consistency. If that is watery, if the poop or the stool is watery, if it is uh, formed or semi-formed, ganyan. Okay, and at times the presence of gross worms, if there are. And yes, you do microscopic exam, you examine for ova, presence of ova, cyst, trophozoites, larvae, as such. Okay, in microscopic exam, again, you can prepare uh, saline or NSS mount and or iodine mount. Or yes, you can also make use of your KTS, your CatoCats or Cato thick smears. Okay, for your fecalysis. And yes, for blood parasite diagnosis, you make use of thick and thin blood smears. The thin blood smear, the method or technique is the wedge method. Okay, detection of Plasmodium, Babesia, and Trypanosoma for your this one for uh, blood, and or if the specimen is blood, of course, blood is utilized to detect Plasmodium, Babesia, and Trypanosoma. And then, yes, there are test kits to detect malaria. Okay, there are rapid diagnostic tests for malaria. Okay, and please note that timing of collection is important for periodic parasites. Timing, please note this one. Timing of collection is important for periodic parasites because when you say periodic, there are there are times of the day wherein the amount of parasite is increased and for this particular parasite, and there are times of the day wherein the amount is decreased for this particular parasite. And yes, you have your other samples, your tissue, you have biopsy for tissue elements and protozoa, and CSF for Naegleria and Trypanosoma. Accordingly, urine for Schistosoma hematobium and sputum for Paragonimus westermani eggs. Okay, prevention and control. Please note, okay, improved sanitation and hygiene. Okay, improved sanitation and hygiene. Please note for this one, do not poop anywhere else. You make use of the toilet. Okay, protect the water sources. Avoid contamination. Okay, safe water supply, of course. Vector control programs. Vector control programs. This is not only applicable for parasites, for vector control programs. Okay, applicable for dengue. Okay, and other diseases naman. Okay, uh, you make use of, yes, you eliminate, or yes, you eliminate your mosquitoes, you clean your surroundings, you make use of mosquito nets, or if you are going out, if you will go outside, if you go outside, or if you go in the wilderness, because in the wilderness there are a lot of mosquitoes, not only mosquitoes, but there are a lot of insects that bites. Okay, please make sure to wear long sleeves, ganyan, or of lotion, and ganon. Anyway, proper cooking of food also. Because some of your parasites, the mode of transmission is ingestion of raw or uncooked food. Okay, and mass drug administration in endemic areas. To reduce, to reduce, of course, okay, the infection rate. Okay, and so again, going back as for fecalysis, please utilize a fresh stool. Okay, and so it's preferred for detecting motile trophocytes. And the amount of the sample should be at least 2 to 5 grams or pea size. Please note that liquid stool should be examined within 30 minutes. Liquid stool should be examined within 30 minutes. And semi-formed stool should be examined within 60 minutes. Solid examined within 1 hour. They should be examined within 1 hour. Okay, but then of course, if you are free in the parasitology section, you examine your samples right away. Okay, you examine your samples right away. Okay. And if you do preservation, you make use of 10% formalin or formalin ethyl acetate for helminths and protozoa. Actually, you have other preservatives for stool. Okay, pero sige, yan lang po ang i-present natin. Okay, so please note, you have here your reference books for clinical parasitology. You have here your medical parasitology in the Philippines. The author is Belisario and De Leon. And you have clinical parasitology by Elizabeth Zabik. Okay, by Elizabeth Zabik. Please note that again, your parasitology, it utilizes, it is concerned with the study of animal parasites and their medical significance in the country. And please note, it also puts emphasis on the pathophysiology, epidemiology, life cycle, prevention and control, as well as the identification of ova and or adult worms. Okay, and other forms so that may be utilized in the diagnosis of the parasitic infection. Okay, so activities that will you are expected to do in clinical parasitology is you have microscopic identification of diagnostic features of different groups of parasites that are pathogenic to humans. So yes, okay, you will do okay microscopic scan or microscopic evaluation of prepared stools. Okay, you will also prepare fecal smears, ganyan, KTS. You will also prepare such. You will identify parasites, identify ova of a nematode, ova of a what you call this, ova of an ascaris or cyst ova whatsoever. Okay, and aside from that, okay, you will also do uh what you call this, fecal occult blood. You will also do fecal occult blood in clinical parasitology. Anyway, I guess we'll end here. So I guess we will end here. Let's continue some other time. And this has been Gael, reminding you to live fully, love deeply, laugh often, keep learning, and never forget to enjoy the ride. And as you move forward, may you always choose curiosity over fear, kindness over convenience, and growth over comfort. Celebrate your small victories, honor your quiet moments, and trust that every step, no matter how uncertain, shapes the story you are meant to tell. The world is wide, your time is precious, and your journey is uniquely yours. Go make it extraordinary. Thank you so much. Thank you, and see you around.